Hey YouTube, so in today's video I'll be reviewing the barrier fruit in Grand Peace Online. I've been using this fruit for 2 weeks now and I decided I would make a fruit review video on it before I switch to the horo no Mi. Okay, I'm going to start this video by just giving an introduction to what the barrier fruit is and its moves, and then later in the video I will discuss how useful it is in both PvP and PvE. The barrier fruit, or the Bari no Mi, is a rare devil fruit in a Grand Peace Online. As you would expect, the fruit is based on the idea of barriers, and the barriers created by this fruit can block most of the moves in game, but some abilities do go through. I'm not going to list all of the abilities that go through, but most of the Gura no Mi abilities do go through the barrier. The barriers created by the fruit are not useless though, and like I mentioned, they can block most attacks. The first move that the fruit has is called Barrier Crash, and this move is pretty basic and just creates a barrier wall which can then be held or released to push an opponent back. This move is okay, and I mainly use it to push opponents away or as a quick shield against projectile attacks. The second technique is the Barrier Sphere. Now this move is pretty fun and can be used to either protect the barrier user or to trap an opponent. This move does drain stamina, but if you have a decent amount of stamina, you can hold it for quite a while. I mainly use this move to trap opponents rather than to protect myself, and the next move is called Barrier Stairs. This move can be used for mobility to get around if the player doesn't have GPO, but the most creative use of this technique that I've seen is someone using it to interrupt an opponent's combo by catching themselves on the stairs after they were knocked back. So to explain this, they were ragdolled and they caught their ragdolled body on the stairs, which then interrupted the opponent's combo. The next move is one that is arguably the most useful move in the fruit's moveset, and this move is Barrier Cage, and it is the fruit's only block break outside of the ultimate. This move is what gives the fruit combo potential, and its ability to block break makes it really useful in PvP. There are a lot of combos you can do with its move, and it's actually really satisfying when you land it in game. And the final move that I need to mention is the ultimate. The ultimate is Barrier Spikes, and Barrier Spikes are also a block break, and it's a pretty simple move. It's not that hard to land, and it's great for getting off some quick damage. Alright, now I'm going to discuss how good the fruit is when it comes to PvP. Bari is honestly a pretty strong fruit in PvP, especially in the category of rare fruits. Its moveset is useful and works really well with a strong sword build. I personally don't put any extra points into the fruit, and I only put enough to knock the moves. I really don't think you should rely on the fruit too much for your damage, as it's a much better idea to have the fruit for its moveset and for combos, and then have your sword as your main damage output. The fruit is not only good in PvP, it's also super fun in PvP. Now I've had a lot of fun using this fruit, primarily because of how versatile the barrier mechanic is. You can use the barriers to attack or defend, but I think the most satisfying use of the fruit is to use a barrier to block high damage ultimate like Magma Rain. However, the fruit does have its downsides. The most obvious downside is the fact that it can't really be used on its own. Where the fruit shines in game is when you combine it with swords in the game like Gravity Blade or Candy Cane, but on its own it really isn't very strong. Also, the defensive capabilities of the fruit are severely limited against certain fruits like Gura, for example, as a lot of Gura's moves go through the barriers. Overall though, it's definitely not a bad fruit for PvP, especially if you have a good build and don't rely on the fruit too much. I personally advise only putting the minimum points into the fruit and relying on your sword for your damage output. When it comes to PvE, this fruit really falls short. In my opinion, Bomu is the best rare for PvE and greatly outshines Bari in this area. The limited PvE that I have done with Bari has shown me that the fruit doesn't have enough long range attacks to do things like Kraken farming effectively. However, I've been told that the fruit is okay at doing dungeons, although I would imagine this would rely on another person. I personally haven't explored this though, so I don't know if it's good for dungeons or not. The only practical use of Bari that when it comes to PvE that I've discovered is that the fruit can be used to block attacks from bosses, but even this is limited sometimes. I suppose you could also use the fruit to keep NPCs contained in a small space, but this also has its limits. Overall, Bari is definitely a far better fruit when it comes to PvP rather than PvE. However, I don't think this should persuade you from not trying the fruit out, as I have found it to be really fun. To conclude, I think Bari is a great fruit, and it's the most fun fruit that I've used so far in Grand Peace Online. I think the fruit really shines in PvP, and is a great support fruit for a strong weapon build. When it comes to PvE, the fruit is definitely not great, and if you want a fruit purely for PvE, you're better off getting Bomu. Alright, that's where I'm going to end the video. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. With that out of the way, I hope you guys have a great day, evening, whatever time it is you guys, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye guys.